Good afternoon, my students. This is me, Dr. Hani Alhasani, and that's the first video about the course, how to teach English language. So it's about ELT, teaching English as a foreign language or a second language here. For this book, I chose it, How to Teach English by Jeremy Hammer. So this book, it's a resource for our course. Please go through it. It has a lot of chapters, around 15 chapters or 16 chapters. We will pick up some chapters from the book, which I feel it's the most essential chapters in the book. So at the beginning, what I need to remind you, chapter 1, it's about how to be a good teacher. I skip it already. It's not important for you to study it for the exam, but you can read it for your own knowledge. For me here, I want to start with chapter 2 quickly and move to chapter 3. So how to be a good learner. And here we have what we call the points or the subtitles inside the chapters. We have what is why is it difficult to describe good learner, how important is a student's motivation, responsible for learning, characteristic or characteristic for classroom, and so on and so forth. To start with, why is it difficult to describe a good learner? Here we have a few paragraphs, but we need to focus on one point here. Recent university research team in Britain wanted to find out why some children who learned musical instruments became very good at it, while others remained at best competent. They found that the most common factor the number of hours. So is it like easy for us to learn language? No, it's so difficult because the time we consume to learn or to practice the language is quite limited. Here in Palestine or in the countries who speak English as a foreign language, it means we cannot speak it outside or for public. We just speak it maybe in such special courses, and that's why it control our like passion to learn more and more. That's why the point here. And here teachers have some commonly held views about good learners, like what they will tell you that the students who do best are ones who always do their homework. For example, like here, let's say that I'm teaching a course for secondary school or for like preparatory school, those who between 12 to 14 years old, and I give them homeworks or quizzes from time to time, and they do it very well. That's why it gives me good impression about their feedback, whether they are still good or they move to better condition. So that's the first about the first point. Second point, how important is the student motivation? You know that no one will learn any new thing, even skill, without the motivation. So motivation here, you give the student the incentive or the support to move on in one side or one field, one major, and then you will get the result. It means you will have a qualified teacher, student or learner. And here something called down, we have two things about the motivation. They say highly motivated learn more successfully. That's the point about highly motivated. So highly motivated means it like the passion, or you work hard and you get successful maybe job or whatever, which ease or make your life better. Here we have integrative motivation. One point of motivation or one type, another type instrumental. So make sure that you can differentiate between integrative and instrumental. Integrative, it means more powerful than instrumental. Why? Because the student will be self-motivated. Here, the integrative, it means you integrate into the culture of the speaker. You know exactly how to deal with them because you're already among them. So integrative, you already get inside and realize how you can deal with them or how you can be more effective. But instrumental, you use it for special purposes, like you take IELTS or TOEFL exam as an instrument to get inside the university. So instrumental motivation is something very, very quick, and you didn't base on it for longer time. But integrative, you need it for longer time. That's why you keep your own thinking with improving it. Why or who is responsible for learning? You know, like the responsible individual learner, like the learner who is looking for taking the responsibility for himself to learn. How? By getting some facilities like headphone or videos, whatever facilities, TV, laptops, and other, like talking to others through the Skype. Next point, what characteristics do good classroom learners share? So characteristics: willingness to listen, willingness to experiment, willingness to ask questions, to think about how to learn, willingness to accept correction. So here, if I am a teacher and I want to tell others that I have good classroom learners or I have good learners, it means they start with listeners, because listening is the first point to get in any language or skill. If you are not listening to like a new experiment or a new skill, or you didn't listen to wise people, that means like it gives how to say, like upside down feedback to others, and it won't be a nice experiment. That's why listening is very important to start feedback or to give feedback to others. Willingness to ask questions, to think about how to learn, like find ways how to learn and try other strategies. Sometimes I learn how to read vocabs, and suddenly I found out that I'm slowly, or translation every word is something too bad, or I feel that it makes me very slow learner. So I have to change my strategy to maybe handwriting or redrafting, something like this. This is the way how to think of other ways to learn. Willingness to accept correction. Never complain about feedback or getting the correction from your teachers or from the experts. They give you the feedback to ease your life and to make it very fast. That's the point. What's special about teaching adults? So teaching adults is another point, because they are not kids. They are not even like to listen. They like to judge and like to know more and more because of their consciousness, high level of consciousness and curiosity. They make them better of asking, and that's why they also came with their own record of success or failure. That's why maybe you will face in adult period a lot of guys or girls, they are not able to listen to you because they hate that course, or they hate that they are not even think about the skill. You cannot force them, but you try your best to let them be interested with what you give. So that's the point. Adolescent, they have their own histories too. Each failure episodes them are predispose them or more failure. Each success provoke the hope. So provoking here, when they succeed, they feel happy. When they fail, they get down, and that's why you have to be careful in dealing with adolescent. Adolescent means the age between 12 to 14. Adult is above 15. That's the point. So adults are frequently more nervous of learning than younger pupils. So if you think about young, like kids, they are able to learn in different ways, different criteria, different strategies, maybe by singing, maybe by playing games. But adults, maybe they are not interested anymore in playing games. They need another way to be to the point. And that's why you have to know the differences between ages. It's very important to read about the period of time for learning. What are the different levels? So we have here levels of students or learners. If I am a teacher or a trainer, for sure when I get inside any class or inside any training maybe place, I will put in my mind that some will be beginner, some will be an intermediate level, another advanced. So I have to be careful about how to give the information easily, peacefully, and with different types, like how to start with beginners, send to all of listeners or to all of audience the general information, and that's the point, to let the beginners understand what I mean or what we need from that course, the purpose. However, when I feel that the beginners, they are not there, I have to give them extra time outside the training. That's the point of beginner, and we have intermediate. They can understand and they can learn by their own. Advanced, they already have a good quality of learning and they could understand every word that I mentioned without suffering a lot with them. So here, beginners and false beginners. When we talk about beginners, we understand that false beginners to reflect the fact that some adults start beginners course having heard virtually no English. It means false beginner, you cannot deal with them. They are out of the concept or the space. You have to avoid starting with them. You need to give them elementary course, because they don't have that concept to start the course. We have here also elementary, upper, intermediate, and also you can see down how the British people or how the others describe the terms of student level. They give here beginners, false beginners, elementary, lower, intermediate, intermediate, upper, intermediate, advanced. So it's very important for me to understand this concept. And I say again, false beginners, they are not starting yet. They don't have really any English basic, or they don't have even anything to share. They are not really beginners. They are below the level. That's the meaning of false beginners. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 levels for terms of for students level. That's very important for me. And here you can read the 3 levels again, how to deal with them. You can find here the intermediate. Success is not so easy to perceive here. Success for beginners is easy to see. And advanced students, they already know a lot of English. It means here they are looking for higher level of English. They are not looking just for a normal type or normal style. They need to be in intensive course and intensive hours. That's the point for them. They are not here to count a lot of hours. They need the very limited time with full of knowledge and information. And here, how should we teach the different levels? We need to read the criteria and standards here. When we talk about one obvious difference in the way of different levels, beginners need to be exposed to fairly simple language which they can understand. So fairly simple language, this is for sure anyone or everybody who is in training will understand that beginners need to be like the simple language. You cannot show off. You cannot show them that your level is too high, because they will feel disappointed, and that's not your target. like saying some words like what about your telephone number, hello, goodbye. This is very, very like a starting point. And here, let's continue the next one. We have here the activities offer depend on the level 2 for beginners. We will not suggest abstract or discussions. So for beginners, no discussion. But for intermediate and advanced, we need a discussion and argument. For adult, for the advanced, we need that argument or opinion, and how to defend this opinion through the debate. That's the point. They say here both overtly and subconsciously to different levels. Conclusion, you can read it by your own. Let's move to chapter 3. And in chapter 3, how to manage teaching and learning. This is about your managing. You need to understand carefully how to deal with the managing. And the management always very important for the administrative department and teachers. The students will feel always about whether the teacher arrange and organize the class and the points very well or not. So the point here that I want to share with you, proximity teacher. This is one point. Teachers should consider how close they want to be to the students. So the proximity here means the level of being closer. How closer? Is it like by telling them a lot of things or sharing them some occasions? No. It's the way how you get inside the class and try to listen to as much as you can from the students. That makes you a very cozy and warm teacher. They can tell you their problems without any barrier. So that's the point, and that's what we need to tell to others. Here the first point about proximity, and if we want to share more from the proximity, this is the point. Appropriacy, how you be appropriate. Appropriate, is it like you get it like fit? How you get fit by friendly atmosphere. So friendly atmosphere, it's also another way to give the students information and let them like or love your class. The appropriate way, it's also needed for your management. Movement. So sometimes the position of teacher, like sitting on the edge of table, standing behind a lectern, or standing and raise days, this is make strong statement about the kind of person or the teacher. It's important therefore to consider what kind of effect such physical behavior has so that we can behave in a way which is appropriate. It means you have to decide whether to stand in the middle of the class, in the edge of the table. That's very important for the students because of the body language. Movement. Some teachers like to move in the rows or in the column among the students' table. This is give the students motivation and let them always be with you. No one will be sleepy, and here motionless teacher can be poor or can bore the student, and that's not a good point for teachers. Most successful teachers move around the classroom to some extent. Contact, we have here eye contact. In order to give your message quickly or with a nice way, you have to keep the contact and eye contact, keep asking questions and give them the space to reflect the opinion. How should we have here like the way how should teachers use their voices? Your voice should be spread and use the way to send your voice to the all classes. So it means you have crucial impact on the class by your voice. Your voice is very important. Audibility here, the teacher need to be audible. It must like what? Audible here, class hear them just as well as those at the front. Audibility, those who are sitting on the back, usually we hear a lot of complaint or those who are complaining about teacher voice, they sit on the back. So the teacher should be audible. It means send his voice strongly from front to the back, or maybe he can move to the back and start talking to the students. Variety here, you need to change your voice level. Sometimes you speak with low voice and then raise it step by step. The variety of voice is very important because it attracts the attention. Sometimes when you raise your voice very high, the students will realize that is the most important maybe point of the lesson, and that's why they will keep attention or pay attention to your words. Conversation, that's the conversation that you can deal with it from time to time. Okay, how should teachers mark the stages of a lesson? We can mark the stages by maybe dividing the class into activities, and these activities, like you can see, sometime we can rechange the class sitting, like here seating arrangement. Sometimes we put it in the group, sometimes we have solo work, sometimes we have circle, and sometimes we have the rows, usual rows here. So rows is very common for our classes. Horseshoe, like you make it like this and you are the teacher sitting here talking to all of them, and circle, you are among them. Everyone in the management or every style here in different seating arrangement has an effective side or has an advantage. That's why you have to go and understand it. Orderly rows here, when we talk about orderly rows, imply teachers working with the whole class. So it means maybe I'm standing in front of all of you and talking to you. When teachers working with the whole class, and orderly is very, like here, vitally important to make sure that they remain in contact with the student. Fine, so this contact is considered one advantage for the way. And here separate tables, before we move to separate tables, we have to talk about the circle horses and horses circle. They say like in horseshoe, the teacher will probably be at the open end of the arrangement. Open end of the arrangement, as you can see from the photo. And in the circle, the teacher position where the board is situated is less dominating. So the circle less dominated. When you as a teacher make circle and sit in it, you will not dominate the whole class. Separate tables, this is about you have like a classroom, and you might walking around the checking and students if they are having difficulties, like you will give them writing a task and you need to move around, you can make separate tables to give them the feedback as much as you can within the limited time. This will make you give extra information within the limited time because they have the small groups, and that's the point here. What's the difference between the group here? Whole class, it means I'm talking to a whole class, maybe 20 students. Group work, every group like 4 to 5 or 6. Pair work, it means 2. When we say pair, it means 2 students. When we say group work, maybe 5, 4. That's the point about the group work. You can read as much as you can hear by pair work and understand the point of the differences. Solo work, it means individual work. Solo work, it means I, as a student, will be answering the questions alone. And sometime here, you often provide welcome relief from the group centered. Like you can share your knowledge to other groups, but you are working alone. That's the point here. How can teachers evaluate success or failure? That's because you can give them any kind of quiz or assignment, and based on this assignment of the lesson, you will give the feedback. Good teacher also can assess well their students for progress. They can, or this can be measurement by homework assignments, as I mentioned, speaking activities. So this is a point you cannot exceed that level. For this chapter, we already concluded. You can read the points of this chapter, the voices, the suggestion here, the way of looking, the table seating. Next time we will talk for another chapter about how to describe learning and teaching, and maybe chapter 5. Thank you very much for listening, and I wish you to see you next week. Be careful, maybe there will be a homework this week. You need to submit it as much or as soon as you can. I wish you a great day ahead, and thank you for listening.